We spend fortunes on document security, zero trust networks, private AI infrastructure, encrypted storage. But then we hop on a video call to discuss acquiring a competitor, and that conversation, well, it's sitting on a server you don't control, processed by an AI you didn't hire, accessible to people you've never met, and you probably have no idea where. I sat down with three experts who've been tracking what happens to your most sensitive business communications once they enter this digital world. Giles Adams builds secure video systems for organizations that can't afford data breaches. Simon Dudley helps companies navigate video conferencing strategy. And Ira Weinstein analyzes the conferencing industry. And what they told me might surprise you. Protecting your most critical conversations isn't about adopting bleeding edge technology or abandoning video conferencing. The solutions exist today, they're proven at scale, and adopting them might be simpler than you think. For decades, your confidential data was protected by sheer volume and complexity. Too much information, too hard to find, too difficult to analyze. Well, these assumptions are crumbling fast.
I use AI features extensively, but unfortunately, a lot of the time, AI means giving your data in an unencrypted format to a third party, sending it to other servers, having it be stored in other places. I mean, this is scary stuff. You really don't know where your data is going, and other systems, other providers that you did not contract with directly might see your data.
This isn't just about your video calls. It's about everything: chat messages, meeting schedules, participant lists, even who you're meeting with and how often. That metadata alone can telegraph your next strategic move.
I used to run conferencing for an investment bank years ago, globally, and the actual meeting schedule, literally the names of meetings, could not be shared because you couldn't let anybody know who you were meeting with, because that might be next quarter's acquisition.
And for AI to work with any of this data, there's a fundamental requirement that changes everything.
The server needs to be able to access, for example, your audio to be able to do a transcription. It needs to be able to process that transcription to create a meeting summary or a to-do list. So all that data that, by the way, contains your most confidential meeting information, that discussion about that merger and acquisition, whatever it is now open, exposed, and being sent to a company for them to process. The opposite of data security is what I call that.
What used to hide safely in massive data volumes can now be weaponized in minutes.
In a world of AI, you can find it pretty much instantly. And so once it's been processed and turned into something useful for somebody else, then it's useful to all sorts of actors who may or may not be in your organization.
We've made it convenient for bad actors to get to data. I had a client a little while ago that had 700,000 hours of recordings across their enterprise. And when they summarized that down, the key points were now in a terse little format available for whoever could get to it.
The scale of this shift is staggering. The pandemic didn't just change where we work, it fundamentally changed how much sensitive information we're now sharing digitally.
Organizations are probably doing anywhere between 10 and 1,000 times more video calls than they were 10 years ago.
And the nature of what we're discussing, that's evolved too.
It used to be video conferencing was a replacement for travel. Now it's day-to-day business, and we're having critical, high-profile discussions over video that we would have flown for.
And the threats aren't just coming from sophisticated bad actors. Some of the biggest exposures are happening through innocent mistakes.
It was in 2023. And it was something about some AI researchers that exposed, I think it was 38 terabytes of data from a GitHub repository. So it's, information that it might not have been the most critical, but it was key information, private discussions and things like that, that suddenly became available. And it included something like 30,000 Microsoft Teams messages about a variety of topics, and links to meeting summaries and people's discussions about meetings, and all this information that, frankly, I don't know that I'd call it top level secret confidential, but it's business private. And that was suddenly out there to the world. And it was an honest mistake somebody made. And these are the things, Rob, that really concern me. It's not, bad actors, we have to protect against that. But innocent mistakes are just as bad. And the only way to avoid that is to not have that critical data in that location. It's very simple. Don't put it there, and then it can't be innocently exposed.
But how realistic is this? Many executives are operating under a dangerous assumption that someone else is handling their video communication security.
Most of the large organizations have people who look at that, but a lot of the time, everybody assumes somebody else did. And you just kind of continue with your business and hope that somebody dealt with it. And, hope is not a successful strategy.
And there's another layer reshaping the risk landscape. Geopolitics is changing which countries and which providers you can trust.
The US government has now become a risk. I mean, without turning this into a massive geopolitical conversation, we're all talking about the risk of China. There's plenty of European nations now who are saying, I don't want my data going through US servers.
There was some legislation that the American government enacted, I think it's called the Clouds Act, which meant that any US headquartered service provider at the request has to provide information to the government. And if you were running a service from an American service provider in a country in Europe, shall we say, and perhaps having a little dispute with the US, for example, you might be a little bit concerned that those conversations were being, open to other scrutiny.
Business partnerships and joint ventures are creating additional exposure points that multiply your risk.
Any information you share is in theory out there, right? We're doing more and more critical meetings and critical discussions over video. And that includes a lot of, inter-company information. Let's talk about how we can partner. Well, now suddenly both companies have the information. The cloud has the information. It's recorded. It's summarized. All of this information is now out there about two companies and their future direction.
Your confidential strategy is only as secure as the weakest link in this entire chain that includes systems of providers, partners. But here's what may surprise you. Protecting your most sensitive communications isn't about abandoning modern tools or revolutionary new technology or even sacrificing those hard-earned workflows. It's about being strategic with proven solutions.
So there is a kind of swing back we started to observe where people have said, look, cloud is great for maybe a relatively low-level conversation for a marketing logo discussion with an agency. But if we're going to talk about mergers and acquisitions, or indeed you're a government talking about something that you really do want to protect, you've got to think about what tools you use.
The approach that's working is strategic segmentation, different tools for different levels of sensitivity.
All calls from the executive floor are on the internal system. All board meetings are on the internal system. Just start there. Pick these specific things that you know are very likely to have confidential information and shift them over.
And here's what's changed in the last few years. Modern secure solutions don't require training your team or changing workflows. Same calendar invite, same user experience, different underlying infrastructure when it matters most.
One of the lovely things about that is the user doesn't need to know any of it.
You're a link away. Whatever link is in my meeting invite is the link I'm going to click, whether that's my internal private secure server or a cloud service, it doesn't matter. So it's no change for the user at all.
So how do you start? Well, first, identify which conversations need enhanced protection, truly need it. And then ask yourself the same question you'd be asking about your documents. Would I be comfortable with this information leaked to a competitor?
When you're auditing your meetings, and I've worked with a lot of clients on this, what you need to do is you need to go department by department, use case by use case, and talk to the users and prod them. Ask the user, if that meeting you had this morning, if that transcript went out to the public and was published in the Wall Street Journal, are you good with it? Those kind of, litmus tests really matter.
Number two, get real visibility into where your data flows. Ask your vendors 3 specific questions. Where exactly is my data processed? Which third parties are touching it? And can I get a meeting by meeting choice of where my data goes? Most organizations are shocked by what they discover.
Most organizations have no clue. It's in the cloud. As somebody said some time ago, the cloud is just somebody else's computer. And I think that many people have kind of lost touch with that, and they need to reconsider it.
Third, start building your options with proven technology. This isn't experimental. Organizations have been doing this successfully for years.
It ain't rocket science. It's been done. We've been doing it for many, many years. There's a lot of other companies out there that have that expertise.
Start small, be deliberate, and expand strategically.
I tell them to go slowly and deliberately. Move key meetings, move the obvious low-hanging fruit of very confidential meetings, and then decide what else you want to do. There's no rush here. It's just a matter of Do it properly, do it deliberately, and make good strategic decisions. Straightforward.
The assumptions that kept your data safe for decades are crumbling. AI is fundamentally changing what's possible for both legitimate analysis as well as malicious actors. Organizations are sharing exponentially more sensitive information digitally than ever before, and geopolitical tensions are reshaping which providers and which countries that you can trust. But here's what you need to do on Monday morning. Audit your most sensitive conversations, the ones that could move your stock price or give competitors an edge. Get real answers about where that data goes and who controls it, and start building options so you're not trapped by assumptions when the stakes are at their highest.
We must be diligent here.
You wouldn't store your most sensitive documents on some random cloud service. With your most sensitive conversations, they deserve the same strategic thinking. The technology exists. The question is whether you'll use it before you're forced to.